Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon X and Y analysis video. Today's video is all about the legendary Pokemon Xerneas, so let's get started by taking a look at its typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Xerneas is a Mono Fairy type Pokemon introduced in Generation 6, and the title legendary of the Pokemon X game, as this Pokemon is meant to represent the letter X. But as for the ability, the only one that this Pokemon gets is known as Fairy Aura, which is an ability that increases the damage of all Fairy-type attacks while Xerneas is in play. Now there's a little bit of a discrepancy as to how much this increase is. There are sources saying it's a 30% increase, where there are other sources saying it's a 1/3 increase, or a 33.3 repeating increase. But either way, it's somewhere in the 30% and will definitely allow Xerneas to do even more damage with all of its Fairy-type attacks on top of the stab that it gets from being a Fairy-type. But as for its stats, Xerneas has a base 126 HP, 95 defense, and 98 special defense, which is pretty standard in my opinion for many legendary Pokemon, as its stats are just going to be high all around across the board. This Pokemon also does have some pretty great support moves in the form of being able to use dual screens, as well as having access to Aromatherapy and moves like Thunder Wave. So overall, it potentially could run a very effective defensive set if you would like to. But as for its attacking stats, both of these are base 131 for its physical and special side, meaning that no matter what type of attack Xerneas goes for, it will definitely be able to do a ton of damage with both the physical and special moves that it learns. And as for its speed stat, it is base 99, which unfortunately is pretty slow compared to many other legendary Pokemon, as this Pokemon is going to be outsped by many of them, and also falls just short of the base 100 speed tier that a lot of Pokemon use as a benchmark for seeing exactly how fast they might be, as this Pokemon will be outsped by Pokemon of base 100, being only base 99. But overall, as you can see, this Pokemon does have very well-rounded stats and is definitely capable of being a huge offensive threat in the current Uber's metagame. So for the first set that I have for you in this video, we are going to begin by giving Xerneas either a timid nature to increase its speed but lower its physical attack, or a modest nature to increase its special attack but lower its physical attack. And for the ability, we obviously are going to be going with Fairy Aura. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into its defense, 252 into its special attack to max that out, and then 252 EVs into its speed to max that out as well. And for the item, we're going to be going with a Power Herb, which is meant to work in combination with the first move on the set, known as Geomancy. Now, Geomancy is Xerneas' signature move, and what it does is that it boosts your special attack, your special defense, and speed by 2 stages. But normally this is a 2-turn move, but through the use of the item Power Herb, we are actually able to turn this into a 1-turn setup move that will make Xerneas incredibly fast and incredibly powerful, and possibly one of the most threatening Pokemon in the Uber tier as of right now. But as for the moves to be going along with Geomancy after we have successfully boosted our stats, the first one we're going to be going with is Moonblast, which is going to be our main Fairy-type attack on the set, as it will be hitting a ton of things for some really solid damage. It gets a Fairy Aura boost along with getting Stab, so it's going to be your go-to move unless your opponent is able to obviously resist this attack. But to go along with that, we are going to be going with either Thunderbolt or Grass Knot for a coverage move. Both of these give you some really solid options against a variety of different Pokemon in the Uber tier, Thunderbolt being particularly useful against a Pokemon like Lugia, whereas Grass Knot can land a pretty solid KO on Pokemon like Groudon or Kyogre. So those are some things to consider when choosing between those two moves. But we're also going to be going with Focus Blast for the last move on the set to give us some really good type coverage against many of the steel types we are most likely going to run into in the tier, as Focus Blast will allow you to hit them for some really solid, super effective damage, and with your boosted attack, most likely KO them in one shot, which is really great because this set overall is just able to plow through teams if they don't have something to solidly resist this particular Xerneas. And right now, the biggest counter to this particular Xerneas, or just Xerneas in general, is Aegislash. So that is possibly the only thing that can solidly come in and check this thing. But as of right now, there are still very few things that can handle this set, making it possibly one of the most threatening and deadly sets that Xerneas can run. Up next, I have a physically based mixed attacking set for Xerneas to run. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a naive nature to increase its speed but lower its special defense, and for the ability we're going to be going with Fairy Aura. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into its physical attack, 4 into its special attack, and then 252 EVs into its speed to max that out along with the physical attack being maxed out as well. And for the item, we are going to be either going with the Choice Band to increase our physical attack by 1 stage while locking us into a move, a Choice Scarf to increase our speed by 1 stage while locking us into a move, a Life Orb to boost the power of all of our attacks while giving us the freedom to use all of our attacks but having that 10% recoil, or an Expert Belt to increase the damage of all of our attacks that hit our opponents for some super effective damage. But for the moves, again, the first one that we're going to be going with on this set is going to be Moonblast, and even though we are not investing at all in special attack on this set, or aside from those 4 special attack EVs, Moonblast is still an incredibly powerful move due to the Fairy Aura boost that you get from using this move, allowing you to effectively run a very awesome mixed set for this Pokemon, as this more often than not will be the only special attack that you will need on this Pokemon. But to go along with Moonblast, we are going to be running Close Combat as a fantastic fighting type move for this set. It's particularly useful when trying to deal with some really awesome special walls in the Uber tier, such as Blissey, as Close Combat will more often than not one-shot them after Stealth Rock, and that is something to just keep in mind. But Close Combat is also really good for the steel coverage to allow you to break down steel types that would typically be coming in to try and resist Moonblast. And to go along with that, we're also going to be running Mega Horn on this set, which gives you some amazing type coverage in the Uber tier, specifically because most Pokemon in the Uber tier typically are weak to bug moves, which I find to be very interesting as there are a ton of Psychic types and also a couple of Dark types that would not want to take a Mega Horn from this thing. So this will give you some really great coverage overall. And then for the last move slot, you could also potentially run Rock Slide as a way to potentially do some more damage to some other Pokemon, such as Lugia, for example, which obviously would not want to take a Rock Slide. It's going to take it pretty well because it's a Lugia with some really ridiculous defense stats, but this could potentially lead you to have an easier time in taking it out as it is super effective, and also it could land a flinch on them as well. But if you would like to also run another move in the last slot, Sleep Talk is definitely a fantastic option, as it will allow you to easily sponge a sleep status and allow Xerneas to continue to be very threatening even while it is asleep, which is something really cool to do for a lot of sets that make use of a choice item or just want to be offensive in general. But on the other hand, I also have a specially based mixed offensive set for Xerneas to run. So again, we're going to be going with a Naive Nature to increase your speed but lower your special defense, and for the ability, we're going to be going with Fairy Aura. As for the EVs, this time we're going to put only 4 into our physical attack, and then max our special attack and speed with 252 EVs into both of those. And as for the item, this time we're going to be choosing between either a Choice Specs to increase our special attack by 1 stage while locking us into a move, a Choice Scarf to increase our speed by 1 stage while locking us into a move, a Life Orb to increase the damage of all of our attacks while giving us that 10% recoil, but having the freedom to use all of them as we won't be locked in anything, or an Expert Belt to increase the damage of all of our super effective attacks. And as for the moves, again, Moonblast is going to be our main Fairy type attack on the set, getting both the Fairy Aura boost and the Stab boost, making it an incredibly powerful move. And then along with that, we are also again going to be running Close Combat, just like on the previous set, for pretty much anything such as a Blissey that would want to easily come in and take our special hits, as Close Combat can easily 2-hit KO Blissey after it has switched in, which is really cool and something that allows this Pokemon to really counter one of the best special walls in the Uber tier. But along with that, we are also going to be running Grass Knot for some really great type coverage. And then for the last move slot, we have an option of running either Thunderbolt for some even more coverage, Focus Blast for some special fighting coverage to work along with Close Combat for Pokemon that are typically physically defensive and wouldn't want to take a Focus Blast that may get hit by it super effectively, maybe for something like Ferrothorn or something like that. Or again, we could also run Sleep Talk in the last move slot to allow Xerneas to continue to be a very big threat while it's asleep and allow it to easily sponge a sleep move that might be used by your opponent. For example, the Dark Void from a Darkrai, which you could easily just switch in on, go for Sleep Talk, and then potentially take it out with either Moonblast or Close Combat, which is something really cool to keep in mind and also something that works on the previous set as well. But overall, this is the special version of what you just saw before, which is another mixed set, and definitely allows Xerneas to have some really great options in taking out a variety of different Pokemon in the Uber tier. Up next, I have an offensive dual screen set for Xerneas to run that allows it to both support its teammates and also prove to continue to be a very threatening special attacker. So we're going to start this set off by giving it a Timid Nature to increase its speed but lower its physical attack, and for the ability, again, we're going to be going with Fairy Aura. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into its defense, 252 into its special attack to max that out, and then 252 EVs into its speed to max that out as well, along with the timid nature. And then for the item, we are going to be using a light clay item to allow Xerneas to extend the turns of its screens from 5 turns to 8, and allow you to continuously support your teammates through their boosted defenses that both the first 2 moves on this set provide, which are Reflect to boost your physical defense and Light Screen to boost your special defense. And it might seem weird to do this on an offensive Pokemon, but more often than not, when you switch this thing in, something is going to come in to potentially try and counter it. So rather than just go for an attack, you can very easily just set up a screen to support the other members of your team, which is really great and will allow this Pokemon to also take hits a lot better if it needs to because of the screens being up. But after you have successfully set up your screens or just want to start attacking, the 2 moves of choice in my opinion on this set are going to be Moonblast and Focus Blast, as they give you some pretty fantastic type coverage and allow you to hit a variety of things for super effective damage or just really hard damage in the form of Moonblast as your main Fairy Aura stab boosted move on this set. And this might seem like a strange set, but honestly, it allows your teammates to take hits extremely well, as this Pokemon, which is typically only offensive, will have a more supportive role in battle, and also still have its ridiculous attack power through its base 131 special attack, and the 2 moves in Moonblast and Focus Blast. And lastly, I have a specially defensive set for Xerneas to run. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Calm Nature to increase its special defense and lower its physical attack, and then we're going to be going with Fairy Aura again. As for the EVs, we're going to almost max its HP with 240 EVs into that, and then we're going to put 252 EVs into its special defense to max that out, and put the remainder 16 EVs into its speed to make it just a bit faster so that it will outspeed Pokemon of base 100 speed that haven't invested in their speed stat. And as far as the item is concerned, since this is a more defensive set, we're going to want to run leftovers to allow Xerneas to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. But as for the moves, the first one we're going to be going with is going to be Thunder Wave to allow us to paralyze any potential attackers on our opponent's side of the field and cripple them hopefully for the remainder of the battle, as they will now be extremely slow and potentially allow any Pokemon on your team to easily outspeed them and take care of them after they've been paralyzed. But to go along with that, again, we're going to be using Moonblast, which also has the added bonus of that 30% chance to drop your opponent's special attack, allowing Xerneas to take special hits even better than it already does on this set. And then for a coverage move, we're going to be going with either Focus Blast or Grass Knot, depending on the coverage you think you're going to need with this Xerneas. Obviously, Moonblast and Focus Blast gives you the best type combination possible between 2 moves that this thing learns, but Grass Knot could be used for specific things that you would want your Xerneas to be able to counter. And then lastly, we're going to be running Aromatherapy on this set to allow Xerneas to heal any statuses it might have received, as well as any statuses any other member of your team might have received throughout the battle, which is particularly useful for allowing them to be unhindered by anything your opponent might have wanted to throw at them in terms of statuses, such as like a Will-O-Wisp or another Thunder Wave or a Toxic or a Sleep status, anything like that. Aromatherapy will be there to take care of it and allow this Xerneas to continue to support your team for a very long time throughout the battle. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video. So I wanted to thank you all for watching and invite you all to feel free to follow me on Twitch, as well as follow me on Twitter, and also bookmark the database in the description that will have all of these Pokemon sets for Xerneas, as well as every other set that I've done in this analysis series, and sets that are obviously easily able to be copied and pasted into Pokemon Showdown for ease of use. And also, feel free to join the Zat at zat.com/Pokegrounds, where you can very easily trade with people, find friend safaris, and also battle other people in the chat, which is a very useful tool for allowing you to potentially get some unique Pokemon that you've been looking for, or just get some really exciting matches in on your Pokemon X and Y games. But anyways, everybody, as I've said, that is it for this video. So as always, thank you all for watching, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.